March 5th. Call this meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by Councilwoman Burse.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a motion on the minutes?
Second.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. We have no special presentations. We have no ordinances on final read. Madam Clerk, let's go with ordinances on first read. 6A, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 21, by renaming the chapter Property Maintenance, deleting Articles 1 through 8 relative to housing in their entirety, and replacing them with new Articles 1 through 6 relative to property maintenance, and deleting Chapter 18, Sections 18158 through 18170 relative to litter and overgrowth.
All right. What's the pleasure of the council?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you. B, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 24, Section 24502, relating to speed on through streets.
And Councilman Mitchell.
Move approval. Second.
Thank you. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. C, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 3, Section 394A, setback requirements for detached signs, amending Section 396, traffic directional signs, amending Section 588A, consumption of alcoholic beverages and beer in the Park Lake Cafes, open containers of alcoholic beverages, and beer in Park Lake Cafes, and amending Section 3244, temporary use permit.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. This is your sponsor. If you're ready to move ahead, I'll move for approval.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Second.
All right. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, let's move to resolutions. 7A, please.
A resolution authorizing settlement of all claims by Mark Smeltzer, Toby Hewitt, and Neely Hogg et al., class action parties referenced below, subject to the execution of a release of all claims and dismissal with prejudice of the City of Chattanooga, and wherein the City of Chattanooga will settle all police pay claims of the listed named 31 police officers in the total amount of $454,405.50.
Councilman Henderson.
Move approval.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. B, please.
A resolution authorizing the award of contract number S15-01-16201 to Clinico Construction of Tennessee, Inc. in Chattanooga, Tennessee, East Lake Park Water Quality Improvement Project in the amount of $2,022,153.20 with a contingency amount of $202,215.32 for an amount not to exceed $2,224,368.52.
Thank you. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you. C, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 3 to CDM Smith relative to contract number S15-016101, East Lake Park Water Quality Improvement Project for an increased amount of $308,800 for a revised contract amount of $681,800.
Thank you, sir. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you. D, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Transportation to apply for and, if awarded, accept a grant from the Lyndhurst Foundation for the expansion of the Chattanooga Bicycle Transit System electric bicycle fleet in the amount of $75,000.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With assurances that some of these bicycles will go to North Chattanooga, I move approval.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you. That takes us down to purchases. Doing none, right? Good. Matter. Other business. Is there anybody on the council with other business they'd like to discuss tonight? Anybody? All right, then we'll move on to committee reports. Councilwoman Burrs? Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Byrd?
Thank you, Chair. We had an awesome report from OSP today, and we were presented from DCD with a pilot today for the stuff.
All right. Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Coonrod? All right, thank you. Councilman Gilbert? Councilman Henderson?
No report.
Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Chairman.
Get your light. Gotcha.
Thank you, Chairman. Planning and Zoning did meet today. We covered all items on our agenda, including updates on ADUs and steep slope and floodplain development. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilman Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had Public Works Transportation Committee meeting today, and we will have another one in 2 weeks following the agenda session.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilman Oglesby?
No report.
Thank you. All right. 6:06, that's got to be new. That takes us to the point in our agenda of recognition of persons wishing to address the council on non-agenda matters. Is there anybody here this evening that would like to address the council? One? All right, please come on up to the lectern. Mr. Attorney?
Yes. At the end of every council meeting, the chair can recognize members of the public that wish to address the council, and these rules are applicable. Each person wanting to address the council has to come up to the microphone that's provided for it. You can't have more than 5 minutes to speak. Can only address the council upon matters within their legislative or quasi-judicial authority. Can't use any vulgar or obscene language or use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others. And try to address your comments to the board as a whole, not to any individual member. And the chair can't recognize any person, neighborhood, or association to speak more than twice during a 30-day time period. I believe y'all are okay.
Yes.
You want to start?
Oh, I should want you to start.
Okay. So I was here last week. This is not the first time that we've been here, or the second or the third, but I'm here to talk about.
Can you give us your name first?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Kristen Cooper.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, so yeah, I'm speaking on the behalf of my grandparents. So last year, my grandmother was almost the victim of a 6-foot sinkhole that fell out beside of her feet. And I know that, like, hearing that is, you can't, like, imagine if that was your grandmother sitting there in her yard and you see, like, she's gardening and a 6-foot deep sinkhole falls out beside of her feet over a storm water drain. Like, you would have a lot of questions, I think, at that point also, especially not this being the first sinkhole, not the second, not the third. This is the 4th one, and it's over a stormwater drain that is on the city of Chattanooga's Public Works GIS maps. So we can't say that it isn't there, and that's the information that we were receiving initially. Like, what drain are you talking about? Well, it's on the map, so we can't say that it isn't there. We've been told there is no easement. If you go to the top of the property, there is clearly an easement, a 15-foot easement off of Missionary Ridge onto my grandparents' property. There's not even, there's nothing past that, but there is this 15-foot concrete easement. And then it's just an open space, and then there's another drain that the city actually just installed on private property, my grandparents' private property, 5 years ago when that tree fell on the neighbor's house in Card. The city came out, installed a plastic drain on private property in attachment to this easement, and then that same plastic drain dumps water into another drain that goes underneath South Terrace Road and then through the entire length of my grandparents' property. They've been dealing with sinkholes in their yard because of this drain since 1970. And the city has taken some accountability for these drains. For example, coming on private property, putting in a plastic attachment to this drain that's already running water through their yard. They've come out, they've run wires up through the drain, said, oh, yeah, there's a blockage, and then cleaned the inlet and outlet of the drain and called it a day because it's private property and they can't do anything. You want to go ahead and say what you need to say before I run out, because I don't want to keep talking and you not have a chance.
Oh, that's okay. Hi, I'm Eva Mitchell, and I'm speaking on behalf of my parents on this property that they've lived in for close to 60 years, and they've spent their whole life, their whole married life, improving this home. My mother has spent hours in her yard putting flower beds, azalea bush beds, all kinds, just beautiful. And now she, in the sunset of her life, she's 78, my father's 88. They're watching their property just literally erode away. This is a city stormwater drain, and right now, in the front of their property, there's either a blockage in the water drain, or an obstruction, or the city water drain is cracked. So the water is not free flowing through the drain now. It is now going all through the front of their property, which is causing these vast sinkholes. And there's more to come. And you can feel, it feels like a marsh in their yard. There's a real pretty rock pond that my deceased brother built when he was in his early 20s. He died when he was like 25. And it's a special thing for my mother because that's a place where my mother can see where her son had built a beautiful rock pond. These sinkholes are right up against that pond. And it's just, it's sad. So I was going to mention, another thing. Because of these sinkholes, it's now exposing their inside water pipes. So now when these water pipes are exposed to the element, the ground's not there to protect it or to keep them warm. So now they're having to run water in their house to keep their residential water drains from busting. So I wanted to add that as well. So I guess that's it. We just really hope that the city just has a little humanity with this. I mean, they paid their taxes every year. They've helped me pay. I used to live on South Crest, where a lot of this water that's coming is coming off the roads of from South Crest Road. The drainage is. So it's not their personal drainage. It's actually the water drainage from South Crest. And the city has actually designed a special little inlet there to help direct the water through their property and through this drain. So
It can't be both.
yeah, it is. It's a city stormwater drain. I mean, it's what it is. And I was under the impression that the city is responsible for their stormwater drains. And I do want to add one more thing real quick. A gentleman did come who actually does this kind of work. He does city stormwater drain work for different areas in the state of Tennessee. He came from Knoxville, actually. And he did say that any other city in Tennessee would have this repaired for my parents. He said, this is ridiculous. And he just knew for sure when he left my parents' house that it was going to be okay. He told my mother everything's going to be fine. He said, I've dealt with these issues before. And he was shocked that Chattanooga won't take care of this. It looks horrible. It doesn't say a lot about our city. Thank you. Is this yours?
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address council? Yes, one.
Hello, council. My name is Austin Sauerbrei.
Excuse me, sir. Just one moment. I'm sorry, Austin. I had it on timer. I didn't see you, Councilwoman. I'm sorry. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, Austin. Just one moment.
Mr. Holland, can you come and address this? Sure about these.
So, first of all, to the Robbins family, I can sympathize with your situation. However, the city's responsibility for stormwater infrastructure is limited to the right-of-way and easements that run through, formal easements, drainage easements that run through private property. In this case, there is no easement that we found on record. So the city's responsibility is pretty limited in this fashion.
So is there anything that the city can do or not do?
The city doesn't have a responsibility for this property. There are drainage infrastructure on private properties that are either installed by residents or that they were pre-existing. There's a number of situations that the city is not, and we can't really manage all of those private property issues, but this is a private property matter, not the city's responsibility, where we convey water along the right-of-way and then along established easements. And we did do a fair amount of work trying to find a record and could not find a record of an easement, a drainage easement on file.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Justin, I got a follow-up question. We've heard that work has been done either at this location or somewhere close by there on private property by the city. Is that an accurate statement?
That is true. There is a drainage easement, and we've conducted work along the right-of-way. So our work, though, is limited to drainage easements and work along the right-of-way, and it's our responsibility to convey the water from one property to the other. And in our case, as the owner of the public right-of-way, the roads and the drainage infrastructure is our property, as I understand, Mr. Noblet. Is that accurate? Thank you.
So the work that you've done was in an area that was designated with an easement?
Either that or it was on the right-of-way. Yes, sir. And we've had engineers survey the site a number of times last year. I think it was midsummer last year, and we had the same engineers survey the site more recently, and the conditions haven't changed substantially. It looks like similar problems along that same in that same area. So we haven't found any new information to do anything additionally.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good, Councilwoman. Oh, sorry, I hit your light.
I'm sure there's a number of individuals and contractors that would be available to fix the problem. Thank you.
All right, sir. I'm sorry about that.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Austin Sauerbray. I'm with the Chattanooga Area Labor Council. I've got two handouts. If we pass those around. We are very excited to be co-hosting a town hall this Saturday, and the town hall is going to be focusing on what is a community benefits agreement. We'll be hosting it at Hope for the Inner City, which is right across from the former Harriet Tubman site. And this event is going to be co-hosted by Hope for the Inner City, the Unity Group of Chattanooga, Chattanooga Area Labor Council, Chattanooga Organized for Action, the Glass House Collective, Urban League of Greater Chattanooga, and Accountability for Taxpayer Money. So these groups have been meeting for the past number of weeks to plan this town hall, and the intent and purpose of the town hall meeting is to help inform local residents, community organizations, and city officials on the process of creating a community benefits agreement and what it takes to actually pass a CBA. We are going to have folks from Stand Up Nashville, which is a group in Nashville, Tennessee that was able to win a community benefits agreement with a city-owned property last year, and they're going to be sharing about their experience, some of the lessons they learned, and what the process for creating a community benefits agreement is. We're also going to have time in the meeting to hear from a panel of local community organizations and local residents, just to hear their thoughts about the hopes and needs in the community. And then we're also going to have time for folks in attendance to break up into small groups and share with each other, to give feedback, questions, and thoughts. But really, we feel like this is an opportunity to figure out how we can, the community and city officials can begin to work together to figure out what a community benefits agreement could look like. We know there's not a developer yet for the site, but we feel like it's really important to start getting community input and having this conversation now. And we would love for y'all to come out and be a part of this and really try to lay the groundwork for close partnership between community and city as the process moves forward. And if there's any questions, any concerns, would love to check in with y'all. but we would love to see y'all there. Again, it's March 9th, this Saturday, from 11 to 12:30. And I shared a flyer with a little bit of more detailed information about the town hall, and then also a piece of information that just shares what community benefits agreements are, and then some details about the Nashville CBA as well. So, yeah.
Councilwoman Coonrod, got a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think it's great that you all want to step out there and go ahead and organize it, and as I'm looking at the people that's at the bottom, like the Unity Group, Hope for Inner City, the different organizations, but what I don't see is the Glass Farm Neighborhood Association, the Avondale Neighborhood Association, people that actually live in that community, right?
Yes.
And I think it's important to hear from those individuals as well. Don't get me wrong, I'm the Unity Group and Organize for Action and Glass House and everybody, those entities are great. However, they don't live in the community. So I would love to see people from the community leading the discussion. And I want to make sure that the community isn't just misled about actually what a community benefits agreement is. I do think that is needed for that area. However, we have to have a company in place, because what Nashville, when they did the agreement with the soccer stadium, they had the stadium already coming, right? We have, and a lot of people thinking in the community that we're just going to create this agreement around a ghost business that's not even there, and we got to make sure that we're giving them the correct information.
Yes. And if I could speak to those 2 points exactly, in the Nashville agreement, you're totally correct that the community benefits agreement negotiations did not happen until the developer was at the table. The process of getting community information and planning what a CBA could look like did happen before the developer came to the table. And that's in speaking to wanting to make sure we're clearing up what is a CBA, what's actually possible, what's not. The intent of this town hall is to address just that, to bring in folks who have gone through the process, to make sure we're clear on what can we do and what is it and what is it not, and to make sure everyone is informed so we have a clear understanding. In terms of the issues about making sure we're involving residents, that is at the core of why we're hosting a town hall. The coalition will not be the folks to say this is what we have to do, this is what we need to do. The point of the coalition is to actually have folks around the table that can draw in resident input. We have been flyering on over 400 doors in the area community, knocking on doors, spreading flyers to get resident attendance and participation. And the hope would be after this town hall happens, that the work of the coalition is to start broadening who's involved in the coalition and do more extensive door knocking of residents to get that resident input. The Area 3 neighborhood leaders, there's 4 Area 3 neighborhood leaders from the different neighborhood associations that are actually going to be facilitating the small group discussions. So again, the function of the coalition is to help bring folks in. And I think as the coalition develops, if there's neighborhood associations from this meeting that want to be a part of the coalition, that is exactly what we want to happen.
So my follow-up question to you is, what's the difference from what you all are doing and my colleague here, what he was doing? The exact same thing, to try to get people to have this discussion, and several people wasn't supportive of his efforts to do that. So why wouldn't you all just collaborate with the council person for that district and everybody work together?
Yes, I think that's what we want to see, is collaboration between city and community. And again, I'm not aware of the details of Councilman Byrd, of what you were forming. I think the reason for the town hall is to make sure that there's transparency in bringing folks in, and what we know from the way community benefits agreements work is it has to be a community coalition, not the city, that is the entity that negotiates the community benefits agreement with the developer. And so we want this to be a space where we can create that open dialogue, where we want city officials engaged and involved, but knowing that legally for a community benefits agreement to function, it has to be a community coalition as the entity that's forming it.
I don't have much more to say other than this, that I don't know where the community get this idea that council people don't live in the district that we reside in, that we shouldn't be a part of discussions. Even if we're on the dais, we should be able to still come to any community meeting. We should be able to still voice our concerns because we reside in those areas. We live in the area. We shouldn't just, we represent them on council, but it's more to just that. So anything that's happening in our communities as well, we should be able to, you know, our voices are concerned. And we should be able to let our voice be heard too on any area level. So the economic development team, they'll be the ones that will be negotiating. We don't negotiate. But I do understand what you're saying, but you shouldn't be trying to exclude us because we're on the council. Like, we don't want you to come sit at this, no.
Well, and I apologize if that's come across. We're inviting, and Councilman Byrd is going to be speaking at the end of the town hall meeting as well. So we do not want to be excluding anyone, and I apologize if that's the impression that folks have got from this, but we want to make sure that there is clear communication between city and community leaders, that we're doing the outreach to residents, we're actually knocking on doors, but knowing that legally speaking, with a community benefits agreement, it can't be the city negotiating with the developer. It has to be a community coalition, and that's what we hope to be able to dive in and figure out how, what is the role of community, what is the role of the city, and how do we actually work together and sit down with each other and make sure that it's a success for the community, for the residents.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilman Byrd.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councilwoman Coonrod, for addressing a lot of things that I definitely wanted to echo. One of the things is that, you know, when we get into these meetings and we do these things, you know, even in council sometime it feels like it's us against them and them against us, and that is not the case, you know. And like Councilwoman Coonrod, when it comes to your grandmother's property, I echo and feel the same way. I wish it was something, and I know she's going to do her very best to make sure she exercise every avenue. With this situation that's going on with the community benefits agreement, you know, we did start a community, a coalition that can say, hey, of property owners, of people who live in the community, of people who have been on numerous boards in the community, and of people who live in the community that are known as the neighborhood association. Sure. We put that together, and then to see the different groups, several of these groups I know I reached out to and asked them to put a representative on this coalition that I was already putting together, and looking at me being the person that the community, District 8, elected to be into office. You know, sometimes it's like a smack in the face when you look at stuff and you sit here and say, wow, you know, when we had this going on, the leader of the community started putting the people together to create that coalition. And then it's like, well, you know what? Your coalition may not be good enough. Let's start over and create our own coalition. That's how it feels. That's not what I'm saying. You're saying it's just how it feels. Sure. But I would hope that these groups, when we come together Saturday, that we do have an outcome to the fact, whereas the neighborhood association, Mr. Ken Smith, who's over Avondale, partner with Glass Farms and other people to say, hey, come sit on the board with us to say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the makeup of how it's going to go and how we want things to be. Because I think those people who live in and reside in a community so often have people come to their community and tell them how they should do things and what they want and what they need. And a lot of times that's what's the divide that comes in our communities. So I definitely be there Saturday, and I appreciate and you know, thank you for your efforts, and just hope that we can come up with a great solution at the end of this.
Absolutely. And to your points, the town hall is about bringing in residents and getting that resident input. Again, you know, figuring out how do we knock on those doors? How do we actually talk to not just 2 or 3 folks, representatives, but actually talk to 200, 300, 400 people that live in the community? And I think that's exactly what we're trying to do, and make sure that there's clear understanding about what a CBA is and what the process could look like. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. Is there anybody else here this evening who would like to address the council? We are adjourned.